Good morning. I'm Diane Pinero-Zucker, and I'm here with Sheriff Juan Figueroa and Under Sheriff Eric Benjamin. And welcome.
Thank
to
you.
the Freeman. I just want to ask you, two of you, to introduce yourselves. Sheriff, you want to go first?
Sure. So as you know, I'm the newly elected sheriff of Ulster County. I've been a resident for 40 years from Plattekill. Graduated at Walco High School in '83. My parents brought us up here from the city to live in the country and have a better life, and thank God that they did that. I'm also a retired Marine Chief Warrant Officer and retired state police investigator, and profoundly humbled to be sitting here as the Ulster County Sheriff, representing all of the people of Ulster County.
Thank you.
Good morning, Diane. Thank you for having us. I have approximately a total of 36 years in law enforcement, 33 with the Ulster County Sheriff's Office. Born and raised in New Paltz, locally. Served 3 years in the United States Army. I actually recently retired from the Sheriff's Office when our newly elected sheriff, had asked me to come back and serve as his undersheriff. So for me, it's a privilege and an honor to come back to the Sheriff's Office where I came from and to help the new sheriff perform his duties.
You retired after an injury in the line of duty, is that right?
I had an injury, but I didn't retire solely because of the injury. It was probably one of the factors that I considered, but I did end up retiring. I was gone for about a year and a half, and that's when I came back.
It was important for me to bring somebody from within the Sheriff's Office as a state trooper and investigator, an outsider, if you will. I wanted to make sure the men and women at the Sheriff's Office understood that I understand their legacy, I understand who they are, and I wasn't going to make them in the image of a trooper because they have their own history dating back to the 1600s. So it was important for me to have some continuity and someone who knew the office in and out, and the undersheriff brings that to the table, and that's why I asked him to come on board.
I imagine there's a big difference between the troopers and the sheriffs.
I mean, we're all law enforcement. We all do the same work, but it's different cultures, how we do different things. I mean, the way things are done. Sure, absolutely. But they're both great organizations, and I'm proud to be sitting here in front of you, being part of the Sheriff's Office. Their history is amazing.
How is the transition going?
It's going well. We're 17 days into this, and so I work half days, 7 in the morning to 7 at night. And it's interesting. We've got some great men and women at the Sheriff's Office. I'm very lucky. I know the tremendous responsibilities of this office, and I know how important it is to represent everyone. And so I'm humbled, and I'm happy to be here. And the transition has been good.
Now, you started before you took office with meetings with
yes,
deputies and
absolutely,
and with the outgoing sheriff.
That's correct.
Now, I have a question here from Elizabeth Berardi. Elizabeth is a mother of a young man who died of an overdose. I actually interviewed her a couple of years back. She sent me a question for you, and she's concerned about medications and behavior therapies for addicted people who are incarcerated at the jail, and I know that I think it's Vivitrol that Sheriff Van Blarcom was providing for addicted individuals. I'm wondering if you're continuing that program, what you're doing.
Well, one of the things I ran on was this opioid epidemic. My plan, and of course it's really early in my administration, but one of the plans that I plan to roll out is how do we fix the issue or help people by helping people, not just the individual that's addicted. And I'm talking about, people that get addicted and actually want to help themselves. But it also tears apart the family, because family, sometimes they don't want to really look at the situation the right way. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you have someone that's addicted in your family, sometimes you're ashamed, you're upset because you felt that you did something wrong. And it's neither. Things happen in life, And so one of the things that I want to do is look at all the options. I'm going to actually set up a forum sometime in the next 30 days at the sheriff's office at the law enforcement center, and we're going to discuss processes that the county has in place right now. Plus, there's so many people out there that have the same issue and questions, and it really is about helping that individual that wants help. And I have an open mind. If that means setting something up at the Ulster County Jail that's going to be safe, and liabilities are huge when you bring any type of controlled substances into an environment like that. So that's important. And then the other thing is too, none of these surrounding counties have the approach that I'm looking to do, and so I'm mindful of that as well. I think if it's something that we all do in law enforcement, because we just can't continue to arrest everybody and treat everybody the same way when it comes to this issue. For example, when these individuals are addicted, they're going to do things, and it's the drugs that's making them do it. These are human beings. That's somebody's mother, brother, sister. And I'm not talking about the individual that's a criminal, a long-term criminal. I'm talking about individuals that somehow got involved in this epidemic and actually want help. And it's, I think, our job in society to help these individuals. Because at the end, if we fix the issue now, it's going to save all the taxpayers money. That's jail, going to the hospital, or when they commit crimes. And as you know, the criminal justice system is multifaceted. So the victim has to be on board. The prosecutor has to be on board. And so there's a lot of work to be done. We have to change our mindset to the issue. When the individual's on drugs and he's committing crimes, he's a criminal. But when he dies, he's a victim.
So this involves working with the district attorney's office closely.
It's involved with the community as well. I've on the campaign trail, I had people that came to me and told me that they actually took their loved ones to go get the drugs because they didn't want to see them suffer. Now, think about that for a minute. That's a pretty powerful statement of the issues that we have. And I get it. Nobody wants to call law enforcement. Nobody wants to have somebody arrested because they have to pay for their attorney. They have to pay but if you don't get them help, it's a lot worse than just paying money. We're talking about somebody's life. So we have to think sensibly about this, and we need the help of the community. We also need to get this stuff off the street. And who knows that more than the family members? And so, yes, it's a different approach, but I really do think that we need to think outside the box with this. We need to help not just those individuals that they want to get that help, but the families as well.
Mm-hmm. And toward that end, are you going to be targeting more dealers than users, or I mean, how will urgent change? Will urgent change?
Well, you're talking so many different things here. Urgent is a separate issue as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. I am reviewing how we do that, how the task force works. I've been in meetings already with the district attorney's office and members of urgent. And yes, we're going to look to see how we can improve how we deal with the problem and the tactics that are being used at urgent. We need to go after the suppliers. The low man on the totem pole isn't going to lead to that sometimes. We need to get the supplier and to get the stuff off the street. But we also need to help those individuals that actually need help. Their families are suffering, and it's really the duty of all of us, citizens, law enforcement, the criminal justice system, our professional medical folks in the county. It's up to all of us to change the mindset on how we deal with this issue. And yes, sure, urgent has a role in it, but it's a role that's going to evolve because we need to evolve.
Getting back to Ms. Berardi's question, what happens when somebody who's addicted comes into the jail? What's done for that person? They're withdrawing. They need help.
Well, if they're withdrawing and they need help, we've actually taken them to the hospital to get help if they're really getting sick. It's our obligation to do that.
And is that new?
No, I mean, that's not new. I think that's been going on at the county jail. When somebody's sick and they have withdrawals, we have to take them, then we will. I think what's going to change is how we put a new system in place. Albany County has an interesting, they actually run a clinic right out of the jail. There's a lot of liabilities with that. again, going to have controlled substances in a facility like that. But I'm willing to look at all this stuff. If it's successful, and I'm going to go up there and take a look at it with our staff.
Mm-hmm.
If it's successful, then yes, I will consider doing something like that. And again, we need to change the way we approach that. And how we do it is by getting ideas from the community, help from the community, look at what's working right now in other facilities,
Mm-hmm.
And then get a game plan together, not just talk, but an action plan to actually get something in place that's going to work and help. It is a lot cheaper to help somebody than to put them in the criminal justice system. And that's a fact.
Right, right. In terms of marijuana and the governor's statements yesterday, and it looks as if we're moving towards legalization. How do either one of you feel about that?
Well, I think as we all look at how society is evolving, that's going to happen. If legalization of marijuana is coming to New York, that's a known fact. The governor is going to do that. There are issues that come with that. If you look at the problems that the other states that have already legalized, there's a lot of accidents. Some folks believe that marijuana is also a gateway drug to other drugs. But these are issues that
Do you think it is?
Well, you know what? I do not think that it is, but some people feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And my job as a sheriff is to take everybody's feelings and understand where they're coming from and come up with an understanding where we can all live with. You're never going to please everyone. But when it comes to the legalization of marijuana, it comes with problems inherently. There's going to be a lot of car accidents. And I know the situation on how and what folks get arrested for marijuana. I'm very aware of that. And so I understand why things are changing. For years, people don't speak about it. And I'm a person that I speak plainly. I remember 25 years ago, 30 years ago when I was a road trooper, when you arrest somebody for unlawful possession of marijuana, first of all, it's not a crime, it's a violation. The paperwork that was involved, you have to write the information. You have to do the evidence. You have to give an appearance ticket. You have to wait for the lab report to come back. It's an extensive amount of paperwork for a charge of unlawful possession of marijuana. And a lot of times it wasn't even done. And what I mean done is the arrest wasn't made. It just wasn't made. And that was 30 years ago. And I know that's happening today. We don't talk about it, but it does happen. And because it's not a crime, it's a violation of the law to have unlawful possession of marijuana. One of the things that I find interesting is that, folks in law enforcement, when, we can't pick and choose what laws we want to enforce and not enforce. And that's a fact. There's always been a certain amount of discretion that you use when you arrest folks. The majority of these marijuana arrests were based on these are secondary charges. It could be criminal mischief, grand larceny. You get into an accident or something when you're in a car and there's marijuana in the car. And if you look at the actual convictions of unlawful possession of marijuana, you're going to see that there really isn't any real true conviction rates on that. And those are the reality that's the reality of what happens with violations of unlawful possession of marijuana. On the other side of that, I know the folks that get arrested more than others. Mm-hmm. It's a racial issue in certain aspects. It is. And so this is something that's going to happen. We need to prepare for it, and mm-hmm. we need to know how we're going to handle it. And it does bring up some issues involving, if somebody's driving under the influence, there are no real tests for that. Mm-hmm. They get involved in an accident. I mean, these are issues. Like the governor said yesterday, you can't smoke in public, and it's going to be for personal use, and it's going to be over. If you have a certain amount over, then there's going to be, there's still going to be issues with that.
Right.
So let's see what happens. Let's see if it actually passes. Let's see if it becomes law, and it's going to be. And then we, as those in law enforcement, have to adjust accordingly. The people voted people into office for a reason. Mm-hmm. And then once those decisions are made, it's up to us to follow those rules and guidelines that our state assembly, Senate, and the governors put into law.
So until then, assuming in 2020 it's probably going to be legal, until from now till then, and any difference in the way you'll be
Well, I'm still looking at how we're going to approach that. I will say this. That's not going to be a priority of the sheriff's office to make unlawful possession of marijuana arrests. It's just not. There's much more serious things that are going on in today's world than to worry about an unlawful possession of marijuana charge.
Yeah. How about growing marijuana for personal use? I've seen arrests of people for 1 or 2 plants in a backyard. It's surprising. You wonder how do the police even know it's there?
Well, I'm sure probably neighbors make a complaint, or it's seen, and you go to a complaint and you go there and it's in public view, or the officer sees it, and I'm going to look at all of that when I finally roll out a plan at the sheriff's office in regards to what's going on with marijuana today, the laws and how it's going to be written. There will be something that I roll out. I've had folks that have been emailing me with concerned questions very similar to this. I'm a common sense approachable person, and so yeah, I mean, I'm going to look at it, and I also understand on the other aspect of the mindset of folks from my generation, and how it's a mind block thing that some people can't even believe that they're going to legalize marijuana, and I get that mindset because they grew up in a certain way. But the truth of the matter is that you have to know what you're able to change and what you cannot change. And the fact is, marijuana is going to be legal in New York State, and we need to adjust to it. That's the bottom line. And up until that gets legalized, I was reviewing with my staff on how we start preparing for that. And that may mean, obviously, if somebody sees a plant of marijuana, and I really rarely hear of agencies doing that.
It is rare.
It's very rare. Yeah. But I will look, and we'll roll out a policy at some point to address that. Again, keeping in mind, we can't pick and choose the laws that we can enforce. I am not a legislator. I'm not part of the legislative branch. My job is to uphold the law.
Do you expect to see an uptick from sales in Massachusetts?
So I heard about that too, and I'm sure that I think that happened with a lot of the bordering states, and that's going to happen. I'm sure here. Good thing is we're not that close to Massachusetts. It's like an hour and a half away. But you're right.
I think the Great Barrington store is probably about an hour.
I'm sure. I am sure that's going to be an issue. There has been issues in Colorado and the bordering states there, and it's going to be an issue here.
You mentioned there's a certain racial aspect to the way some of the laws were enforced. How close are you trying to work with the community? There's a certain sense in community in Kingston, for instance, with some minorities that law enforcement is enforcing the laws in different ways towards them than, say, white people or something like that.
Sure. And look, it's a mindset. I know who I am, where I come from. American and Puerto Rican descent. It's a mindset that we need to change. How do we change that mindset? We change it by actually interacting with our communities. Also with hiring people that look more diverse and understanding of our communities. And it's not something that you're going to change overnight. It just isn't. But there is. We have to start somewhere, and I plan to do that with our agency. And we have some great people at the sheriff's office. For the last 2 weeks, I've met some great, and we're young. I mean, there's a lot of young individuals there, but the mindset needs to change. Not only from the perspective of law enforcement, but from the community as well. As you know, we all live in our own little bubbles in society. Police officers have friends with police officers. Underprivileged, Hispanic communities, for example, live, and their friends are usually in that community. And so we don't really intermingle. Law enforcement has become such a difficult job today, especially the way we communicate. We don't communicate the way we used to in the past. There is no interaction anymore. Everybody's on their computers. Everybody's texting. And so that's just makes it that much more difficult to communicate with people. So one of the things I spoke with our folks at the sheriff's office is how do we kind of break that down I was at a meeting this morning with the Interfaith Council, and I invited them to come over to the sheriff's office after one of my staff meetings so they can meet the staff. You start by just people, talking to people, not emailing, not texting and calling, but actually talking to people, not showing up to your community and just arresting you, but actually showing up to your community and saying, hello, my name is Sheriff Juan Figueroa. Here's my email. Here's my number. If you have any issues or concerns, let me know. In the sheriff's office, we have several zones, and the same deputies work in these zones. One of the things I'm going to do is to go to the town hall meetings, and at some point you will see the deputy sheriffs. Obviously, operational commitments come first. If there's a call, they have to go, but they're going to be going to those town hall meetings. They're going to be interacting with the communities. They're going to know, and I'm going to know because I'm going to go out to these communities, to our business leaders, to our faith leaders, to just normal day-to-day people, and ask them, do you know who your deputy sheriff is? And we need to work on that. And that's how we communicate and break those barriers down with those that look different than those in law enforcement. And we are all humans. We all want the same thing. We just go about it in different ways. And this job of law enforcement, it's already a difficult job as it is. It's more difficult now with the lack of communication, like I said earlier. Everything you do and say is videotaped and stated. Anything can be spinned any way that they want, both ways. And so we need to break down barriers by communicating with each other. We need to go back to the basics, and that's talking to people that we represent.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you're recruiting new sheriffs, how do you go about, how do you make the department more diverse?
Well, actually, the undersheriff came up with a great idea. We talked about, this civil service exams that are going to take place. I think they just did one, so it's not going to be this year, but I think the following year there'll be one. And one of the things we spoke about was not only inside our agency, it's tough to take. Some people are not great test takers. So we're going to put a tutorial plan together for that. With that, the recommendation was made from the undersheriff that we should also do entrance exam tutorials. And that's one of the tools that we're going to use to go out. Obviously, I'm going to, as a role model, as someone that is, I know the historic place I'm sitting in. And so I'm going to use that to go to the diverse communities and ask them to take the test. Women too. The women in law enforcement is few and far between, and we need more women in law enforcement. And so we're going to open up those tutorials to anyone that wants to come to the sheriff's office. One of the proposals from the interfaith meeting this morning was, well, would you bring that to our churches so people, don't feel that they're going to the sheriff's office? But interesting, I said, I want them to come to the sheriff's office because I want them to feel comfortable. I want them to talk. It's not just to show up and make a complaint at the sheriff's office or go to visit someone at the jail, but actually there's something else that's available at the sheriff's office, tutorials. And that's how we start breaking up the mindset that I said before. It really is about communicating and getting our word out there. And me being out there talking to those communities are important. And that's how I plan to reach out. I'm a veteran. I definitely going to reach out to veterans to become members of what they've always been there. I just going to go out and let them know that they're still welcome in law enforcement, and whatever I can to diversify this organization is what I'm going to do.
I have a question here from Susan Barbarisi. And she says that there's a foundation in Dutchess County that provides support to police officers and their families in times of particular difficulty, such as illness of an officer or family member. And she understands that there's some effort to reach out to Ulster County to join this effort. Do you know anything about it?
I do not, but I know we just had a discussion this morning about critical incidents, and I'm going to let the undersheriff talk a little bit now.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So internally, what the sheriff's office has done in the past is to provide initially, if it's a family member of one of our members, to provide them whatever time off they need to take care of the family issues. Evolving into that, we've also utilized a type system where we could donate time to that officer to increase their leave,
Mhm.
so we could donate to their sick time or their vacation time to allow them more time off. We've worked with a couple faith-based groups who've actually provided tremendous support to the families, not only through ministering to them, but associations in the medical fields to make sure that our members, their families, and it's gone beyond just our members.
Right.
This has gone to people that we've met, people that we police, people that we come across that need those type of services. As a deputy sheriff, we're out in the field and we get to see these incidents, and that's one of the tremendous things is the associations that we've made are able to help so many people.
They evidently call it DC 1013, Officer Down.
Which is a
Yeah.
beautiful thing.
Yeah.
They also do a little fundraising. I know that we've had some sick family members that we've also done, but that really does sound like a great program.
And just to add to what the undersheriff stated, we are lucky here in Ulster County. We have so many folks that want to help, and we have that critical incident stress management team. We have the Bruderhof, and we have chaplains from there, and the meeting that I had today with the Interfaith Council. I invited them to the sheriff's office, and they're going to be part of the family, and we're going to work together because it's important to work together with the community. And these are some of the things that we're looking to. Some of this stuff's already in place. We're just going to enhance it.
I have a question from Kevin Smith. She just submitted. He says, "Hi, Sheriff. I was a member of the Technical Advisory Committee for Ulster County's Long-Range Transportation Plan and currently serve on the Ulster County Trails Advisory Committee. Question: what can we do collectively to address the disturbing number of car crashes, serious injuries, and fatalities on our roads, many of which involve pedestrians and people riding bicycles? How can we make our roadways safer for all users, pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists? And how would you see your department helping lead and support that effort?"
Well, I could start by telling you a lot of these accidents occur because we're distracted, and we're distracted because we're texting and on our devices. I'm going to work with the state police and the local agencies to set up, and I'll obviously send out a public safety announcement. We're going to have at different times where we're going to go out and check to see if people are on their phones, and we're going to crack down on that. We're going to crack down on the use of texting and being on phones. We'll have radar enforcement, and we'll do that in conjunction with the other agencies. And it's important that we do that because it saves lives. It really does. And it's important that public safety is one of my main pillars in our organizations. And the sheriff's office, the state police, the local towns will get together and we'll set these things up to make sure that we do that enforcement. And the reason why these things are done is to crack down on that. Can't tell you how many times I see people texting on the road and on the phone. Some people just inherently don't realize that they're doing it. And so we again, it goes back to the mindset of, and these tickets can get quite expensive. And so we are definitely going to put a plan together, working with the other agencies to go out and start cracking down on some of that, activities that are going on, and that's going to save lives.
Can you tell me a little bit about what community policing will look like? What's going to change?
Well, some of the things I talked about was how we're going to intermingle with the town boards and go out. We're going to set up we like any other job. We have monthly reports that we submit. Part of the monthly reports is actually interacting, and this isn't anything new. Other agencies have done this. We're just going to do it here now. Is that we're going to interact more with the public that we serve. So initially, people aren't going to give their names and numbers to the police officers that they interact with because, again, they're fearful of what that information is going to be used for. But the purpose of it is that I know that they're out there talking to people in the community. So that's one thing. So during the month, they'll do 3 to 5 of these interactions, and they'll document it. And if you don't want to give your full name, I get it. I do. But you're going to get our names, you're going to get our emails, and you're going to get our phone numbers. So if you have any issues or concerns, you can talk to us. We're going to go to the town hall meetings. At the end of our cases, a lot of times the victims call us up. We go, we solve the case. or if we have to follow up once the case is closed. Sometimes we, in law enforcement in general, once the case is closed, we just move on to the next. It's a busy job.
Sure.
But what we're going to do is we're going to add another paragraph to that report. And that paragraph is, after 30 days, we're going to go and follow up with the victim and ask them if there's anything else that we can do. And, we have a cadet program that is already in place. Me and the other sheriff met them at the sheriff's office. It's run by some pretty talented individuals at the sheriff's office. Detective Shannon, who just got promoted, was an SRO, and he has a staff. We have some uniformed guys, and what I like about that cadet program is that it was diversified. I like that. There were women, there were people of color, and that I like those type of advancements in interacting with the community. And if it takes me going to the high schools in Ulster County, then that's what I'm going to do. But it's about interacting with the community.
And the cadets are what are the cadets?
They're citizens. They're kids of citizens of Ulster County.
Okay, and they're interested in law enforcement. They're why are they cadets? What?
You want to answer that?
Well, we've had that program for a while, and recently they've changed it, and really it's tremendous. There's so many young men and women that are looking at careers, and it could be in law enforcement, and that's probably the interest that they're looking at from that age. But some will go on to many different careers. But as the sheriff said, it's really diverse, and there's quite a few young people there that are eager to learn. We're eager to interact with them and get to know them on a personal basis. And I think that's where the sheriff said, with the community policing and getting to know the community. And I agree that sometimes we get into our cars or our bubble, and it's a lot of tech. We're entering complaints through computers and not really being able to get out of the car. But on the other hand, we do community policing every day. The men and women of law enforcement, especially with the sheriff's office, they're interacting with people every day in a positive manner, promoting law enforcement, promoting the sheriff's office, and just promoting that we're people. We're your neighbors. We live in these communities. So that happens on a daily basis. If we see somebody affected by a house fire in the place, we know that the Red Cross comes immediately. They come help. But when you have our members go out and do a follow-up to make sure that they have groceries, they have toothbrushes, above and beyond, they go back and check up on. That's the caliber of men and women that we have out there talking to people. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Facebook became a problem for the previous sheriff. I'm wondering, how do you feel about using it for political purposes? How are you going to use Facebook?
I will not be using it for any divisive political purposes at all. If anything, there'll be public service announcements, internal promotions that we have, or events that we attended, or training that we put out there for not only other agencies but for the public service announcements, and that's pretty much how we're gonna run our social media. Excuse me?
Continue in putting arrests on Facebook?
We are actually going to review how we put those out there. I've had some folks come up to me and say, why are the names on it? They haven't been convicted. And I'm mindful of that. So I am going to look at how we do that. It's only been 17 days, but I will be looking at that. And I'm sure the press is probably, if we take the names out, they're going to have to come to the station and grab it to put in the paper. That may not be a good thing for you, but I am looking at how we're going to do that. Mm-hmm. And I understand the concerns of the public when it comes to that, and I get that. And so we are going to be looking at how we put that information out there. Bottom line is, people really want to know if there are some dangerous people out there, and sometimes it's important to put that information out there. And if there's something going on in the community and you see law enforcement all over the place, people want to know. They want to know what's going on in their community. It could be someone that fled the scene of a crime and is now running around their neighborhood. Well, I think I'd like to know. And so I think that's their right for them to know. So some of that stuff will remain. It depends. We're going to get a committee together to look at how we're going to look at social media and how we work with that. And we have a great team at the sheriff's office. A lot of smart lieutenants and sergeants. And one of the things that I did when I went in, along with the undersheriff, that we spoke to every single member of the office and told them what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it. And we wanted their input. Sometimes where you're not at the headset, you don't hear what's going on out there. So I want to know what's going on out there. It's important. And the men and women that are on the road, they are our ambassadors. Whatever they say and do reflects on everything that we do. Our job is to support what they need, how they're going to do their job out there, and what they need to do their job out there.
Mm-hmm.
Let me follow up a little bit on this
Sure.
Facebook issue.
Right.
Are you getting requests from people to take the post down?
No,
If they're
I'm
arrested?
getting, no, and this was when I was out on the campaign trail, they were questioning why we had names on there if they haven't been convicted. Well, I'll look to see how, and I haven't made any decision, but I am going to look at how we do that. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Kevin Richards is facing some harassment charges. He's a deputy. I'm just wondering what's going on with that case, and why haven't I been able to get any information about the harassment charges?
Well, I would say this, and I know it's a generic answer that everybody hears, but it is an ongoing investigation, an ongoing case that I am not at liberty to discuss about. If it was finished, I would, but at this point, this is still going on, and so we have to wait until that process finishes, and then I'll come out and come back to you and tell you what happened. Look, all agencies have issues with personnel, even in public companies. I'm sure here at the Freeman you have a 10% issue, and so my job is to be open-minded and to make sure that if things are done improperly by people, that they're held accountable. I'm not saying that's the case here. I'm just saying that that's my job. If there's something and this happened before I took office, but I know it's right now in the system, and I'm really not at liberty to discuss on any of the facets of that case until it's over. I'll be more than happy to talk to you after that.
Okay. Now, the sheriff's office and the jail have both been criticized for treatment of women and minorities within the department, and I'm wondering if there are any ongoing cases that you kind of inherited since taking office.
I do believe that one case was appealed, and that's still going on, the lawsuit. There are certain things that we are putting in place now. One of the things we're setting up is we're going to have somebody trained as a EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity officer that's going to be taking in complaints, and we're going to set up a structure and to make sure that the men and women at the sheriff's office know that there's something in place, and we're going to have people that are professionally trained, and we're not going to let things linger. We're going to look into it and act on it immediately. I can tell you that I have zero tolerance for discrimination and zero tolerance for sexual harassment. I'm not going to tolerate it at all. And so there are things that are we're going to put in place, during this administration to look at these issues, so it doesn't turn into a lawsuit and cost taxpayers money.
Mm-hmm. And restorative justice, you talked about that a lot during your campaign. I'm wondering, can you just briefly explain to people what is restorative justice and how do you plan to implement it?
Well, I know the county has a great plan in place. I could just tell you about what my plans are. Again, we go to the issues of the underprivileged, and it doesn't matter if you're black or white. How people make mistakes, can't afford attorneys, can't afford bail, and end up at the county jail, made one mistake. And as you know, in today's world, when you make a mistake, it's difficult to get jobs when you're a young man or a young lady. One of the things that I'm looking to do is called the First Chance Program. And again, this is my 17 days here in office. So, but these are my overall plans. And, we are part of the Chamber of Commerce here at Ulster County, but we're also going to be members in Dutchess and Orange County. And I want to reach out to the community, and I want the business community, and I want the business community to know that if we have individuals that they can train, because they need workers, and they're paying a living wage, then they can come and we can get them trained and get them a job. What's in it for the local businesses? I'm going to put it out as a public, service announcement saying this company, this business gave somebody a job, and go spend your money there. It's easier said than done. I get it, but it's got to start somewhere, and it's a good thing when we empower people and give them jobs. You're going to have less crime. People that have good paying jobs, they don't want to lose their jobs. They don't want to go and get in trouble again. And I'm not talking about the seasoned criminal. I'm talking about individuals that made a mistake, that are young, and deserve a chance. And that First Chance Program, I call it that because they never had a first chance to begin with, because of if they're a person of color or underprivileged. And so that's one of the programs that I'm going to put in place at the Ulster County Sheriff's Office in conjunction with the staff. And we're, I've already got a lot of great ideas from the young individuals that work at the Sheriff's Office, which I'm very proud of. And and so those are one of the things. We are all responsible for our community. As you know, the criminal justice system is multifaceted. The victim has to be agreeable to this. The judge, the prosecutor. It really is a program that's going to have to include all those aspects of the system, because if we can't get that cooperation, then once I get these individuals in to train this person, and the person has a job, I want to be able to call the prosecutor and the judge and the victim and tell them, this guy, this individual, this girl or guy did a phenomenal job. They got a certificate. They're going to get a job. Can we do something about it? It was the first time that they made a mistake, or a second time, because it could be a second time. But these are some of the things that I'm looking to do. In the long run, if you look at it, if they get a job and it's a success, then they won't be coming back through the doors of the Ulster County Sheriff's Jail, and it's good for society. And even if it's one or two people a year and it's a success, to me that's success. But we have to start somewhere.
And another program that is the iPads at the jail. That was kind of controversial. I guess anytime you provide benefits for prisoners, people get bent out of shape. Why? What do you think of it? What will you expand it? What's going to happen with that?
I think it's one thing I'll tell you is that it's great because it really calms down any potential issues in the jail. And of course, I like to protect the people that work there. And if it's something that's good and it's going to kind of put people's minds off of their personal situation, so there's no altercations, and I'm all for it. And it's a smart, common sense approach. And I've spoken to the staff, the leadership over at the Commissioner of Corrections and the warden, and they seem to think that this is working. And you can elaborate if you want.
Sure.
On the show.
It appears that the data from the jails that are using this program, the assaults have decreased. The assaults on staff have decreased because this is an instrument that these inmates are using as a privilege that they don't want to have revoked. And as far as an iPad, it's only internal. It has no external links or ability to connect to the internet. So they have an actual library that they can resource. They can access the phone system through their iPad, and within certain times. And they also have some games or puzzles that they can utilize on that.
Music? Can they?
Yes, they absolutely. They can listen to music as well.
In terms of phones, I mean, phone calls from jail to jail can be extraordinarily expensive for families. Are you doing anything to help with that?
I am going to look at that. I know that some of the things that some of the folks on the campaign trail are complaining about it. And of course, the people that are incarcerated don't have a lot of money to begin with. Families don't have a lot of money. I'm mindful. I am going to look at that. Hopefully, I'll have some sort of solution to offset that, a program or a plan. So at least if they're well behaved, then perhaps we'll give them some free call times, something like that. But I have to work with the warden and the commissioner of corrections to figure out a game plan for that. But I do recall a lot of issues with that. There's a lot of poor people out there, and that goes hand in hand with keeping people. A lot of these folks are not convicted of crimes that are in the jail, and so they want to be able to talk to their families. And if there's something that I can look at and put in place, I will.
So the calls, they have access to phones to phone calls on their iPads, but it's not free.
It's not. It still goes through the same system that they use.
And I guess these are like FaceTime kind of calls.
I'm not aware of the program that we have. Like I said, the sheriff said we're here 17 days. So I know that they have access. I don't know if it's FaceTime.
Okay.
Well, we can follow up with you. I'll follow up with you on that.
Okay. And how about commissary? That's another thing that's extraordinarily expensive for families to provide, just sort of a little taste of home kind of food. And those sorts of things are taken over by big companies and I don't know that you can control the cost there, but
no, we can't control the costs on them, and a lot of them are a lot of these companies. There's not too many of them, and so sometimes we're kind of have no say on how they charge, But I'm going to write a note and just take a look at that as well. Obviously, if we can do something, we will. But a lot of times, a lot of these companies are in it to make money, and there's just not much that a facility like ours can do about that. A lot of them have to be, there's a lot of things that are in place when these contracts are put into place. There's liabilities, and I don't have all the particulars on how the commissary works. But we're both from the criminal side of the house, being a retired trooper and a retired deputy sheriff. But I will look into it and get back to you.
And in terms of visitation rules, any plans to change that, to liberalize that a little bit, or?
So, interestingly enough, I will say that I plan to actually go through, and I haven't had the opportunity to. I want to go through the process when you come into the Sally Port as a prisoner and go through the whole process, as well as visitors that come through. It is a county jail. It is not a hospital. I realize people are not convicted, but there are liabilities. We don't want contraband to come into the jail, and it's a jail. I mean, it's people did something wrong. There's probable cause for them to be there, and so we have to really control, and we don't want contraband to be flowing freely through the building. But I do understand that the people that come and visit feel that they feel like they're being treated like they're the ones that are in the facility, and so I'll look at that. And again, I'll take a note. That's one of the things I was going to look at. And but I haven't heard any major complaints from folks. But if there are any, they can call me, and I will look into them immediately. When I go to the jail, because I've been in the jail numerous times, because I want to learn every aspect of the job there. I speak to the prisoners that are there. I want to hear their input. I want to hear if their mattress is not adequate. I want to hear if there's an issue with the commissary or with the phone, and I've spoken to them, and so I take that into effect because it's my job, and I address it. And so if folks have complaints out there on how they're being treated, then they need to let me know, and I will address any issues that we have.
Another thing that's been being done, I understand, is the elimination of visitation. The jails are eliminating visitation and having only phone visits.
I don't think that's going to happen at the sheriff's office. We're not going to do that. We will still have visitation.
Okay. We've got about 10 more minutes.
I have a question from another take on it. And he says, will you, or she, will you work towards restoring handgun permit amendment management at the Sheriff's Department?
What was that question? I'm sorry.
Will you work towards restoring handgun permit amendment management at the Sheriff's Department? This is about...
So I know there have been issues with the way we, with the process. It takes a long time to get a pistol permit process, but the some say it's because it sits at the judge has to approve on it. There's a bill out there that they want the sheriffs to sign off on that. I have to look at how that's going to work. I'm not for or against it, but I just have to do a little bit more research on it. Second Amendment rights are important for all of us. I'm a gun owner. As long as you are a sensible owner of a gun, if you want, I think the main issues that they're talking about, that when they purchase a gun, it takes such a long time to put it on there, or when they're trying to get a pistol permit, it takes a while. There is a process with backgrounds and having the judge sign off on it, and that does take time. Is there a way we can streamline that process? We'll see.
In the past, the proposal was to move it from the judges to the sheriff. That would be the amendment. And
that's a bill. I think that's
right
at the assembly. I have to do more research on that. Again, I look at liabilities. There's a purpose why the judge signs off on it, and I'm kind of okay with that the judge signs off on it, because that's the system that we have. When you put a sheriff involved in charge of that, there might be a certain conflict and a lack of neutrality when it comes to something like that. So I have to do more research before I have an answer for that. But as far as streamlining the process, absolutely. That means calling and figuring out why it's so slow to get a pistol permit approved. If you're a law-abiding citizen, you should be able to go and get your permit and go and purchase a gun if you wish, because it's your right.
There is a waiting period in New York, though, right?
There is a certain waiting period, but there's also the background, and then the judge. It's the judge that has to get that approved.
Right. So the lag time people are complaining about is not the waiting period so much as just the administrative.
It's the administration, right? It's the administrative process. That's correct.
Okay. All right. We're getting towards the end here. Any last things that either one of you want to
tell our community who's watching? We got a lot of people watching.
Perfect.
You can let the undersheriff, because I think I talk most of the time.
No, I appreciate the opportunity that the sheriff asked me to return to the sheriff's office. And my whole career has been about serving, and our philosophies are really, really closely aligned. I got to meet Juan when he was a trooper out of Kingston. And so we're talking 30 years that we've been friends. And back then, working from a different agency, sometimes there could be a little friction with that, but there was none of that. We really got along very well together, and touched base with our careers and interacted with our careers. It seems like forever, but I'm really proud of our new sheriff and honored. But there again, it goes back to the men and women that are actually out there doing this job every day. We have some amazing people that go out and do this job, and like the sheriff said, they're a reflection of who we are and the services that we provide every day. So for me, it's just an honor to be back. And Sheriff Figueroa I think he's just in touch, and he's going to do a wonderful job for the next 4 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to say that the last couple of weeks have been absolutely amazing at the Ulster County Sheriff's Office. The men and women there, I'm profoundly humbled to be sitting in this position. I know the historic implications and the responsibilities that come with this office. I also know that I represent everybody. It doesn't matter what your background is, political affiliation. I represent everybody. I have to be mindful of that, and I know that. And when I make any decisions, I always think of that, and because it's important. And I work for the people of this county. I don't work for the federal government. I work for the people of this county, and my job is to be the conservator of the peace, due process of law, and to make sure that individual rights, including the Second Amendment, because some folks, when you run as a Democrat, they make all these comments, but I'm a gun owner. If you're a gun owner and if you're a outstanding citizen and you have a right to purchase a gun, then it's your right.
Would you encourage people to carry one and use it?
My job in law enforcement is to protect the people of this county. I will not ask you to do that. That's my job. And we don't need vigilantes. We don't need people taking things out of context. My job is law enforcement and public safety. My number one job is public safety. So if there's an issue, you can count that the sheriff's office will be there, and we're going to do our job because that's what we get paid to do, and that's who we are. And I'm again honored to be sitting as the sheriff of this county, and I work for all the people in this county. And thank you so much for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for watching. We're just gonna end the stream.